The wind rattled against the car windows as Daniel Foster gripped the steering wheel, his fingers tense. The road ahead was empty, swallowed by the darkness of the countryside. His headlights carved a lonely path through the mist, illuminating crooked trees that seemed to reach for him. Blackwood Asylum. The name had been whispered in urban legend circles for years, a place where people checked in but never checked out. Officially, it was shut down decades ago due to unsafe conditions and unethical medical practices. But the truth, it was buried, hidden behind redacted reports and missing case files. That's what drew Daniel in. As a documentary filmmaker, his obsession was unearthing the stories no one else dared to tell. He had filmed inside old prisons, abandoned hospitals, even a supposed demon house in New Orleans. But none of those places felt like this. This one felt personal. Hours earlier, Daniel had met with Dr. Malcolm Grayson, a retired historian who had spent years researching Blackwood. The man had called him, insisting that he had proof documents never made public, reports that someone didn't want the world to see. Grayson's office was a mess of old books and dust-coated files. He handed Daniel a thick, crumbling folder and whispered, "Look inside, but don't read it here." Daniel flipped through the first few pages. Patient records, except many had no official discharge date. Reports from former staff members, detailing shadow figures lurking in empty halls. Handwritten notes from a nurse, warning, "Once you hear the whispers, it's already too late." And then, at the very bottom of the stack, a single black and white photograph. At first glance, it looked like an empty hallway, but in the grainy darkness, something stood at the far end. It wasn't clear. Its shape was distorted, stretched, its head tilted, almost as if it were watching. Daniel looked up at Grayson. The old man's voice was barely above a whisper. They knew something was wrong in that place, and instead of fixing it, they locked the doors and walked away. By the time Daniel left Grayson's office, the sun had dipped below the horizon. As he packed up his camera equipment, an uneasy feeling settled in his chest. No caller ID. He hesitated, then answered. Static. A crackling noise filled his ear, then a whisper. Too low to understand. A chill ran down his spine, and before he could respond, the line went dead. He pulled up the footage he had recorded earlier that day, just a simple test shot of his living room. But as he scrubbed through the clip, his breath caught in his throat. There, in the corner of the frame, a shadowed figure, standing completely still. It hadn't been there before. Despite everything, Daniel didn't turn back. He had seen too much, heard too much. He needed to know what was inside Blackwood Asylum. As midnight approached, he and his small team, his sound engineer, and Jake, his cameraman, stood at the asylum's rusted iron gates. The towering building loomed ahead, windows shattered, its skeletal remains swallowed by vines. Lisa hugged herself against a cold. "We do this fast," she muttered. 1 hour, no more. Daniel glanced at Jake, who had already started filming. "Let's move." With each step, the air grew heavier, pressing against their chests. It wasn't just cold, it was wrong. The entrance doors were already ajar, as if welcoming them in, and the moment they stepped inside, the silence was suffocating. The air carried a rotting, medicinal scent, like old bandages and something far worse. Jake adjusted his camera. Then, behind him, the door groaned. Lisa spun around. "Wait!" The doors slammed shut. The sound echoed through the empty halls. Daniel tried the handle. Locked. Lisa cursed. "This isn't funny, Daniel. It's not me," he said, pulse hammering. And then, in the distance, somewhere deep inside the asylum, they heard it, a whisper low, lingering, welcoming them inside. The stale air inside Blackwood Asylum pressed against them, thick with the scent of mildew and something metallic. Daniel's grip tightened on his flashlight as he scanned the decaying hallway. Peeling wallpaper revealed rotting wood beneath, and old patient files lay scattered across the floor, their pages filled with illegible scribbles and violent outbursts. Jake panned his camera over the debris these records. His voice was hushed, as if afraid of waking something. "Look at this one." Lisa knelt beside him, brushing away dust to reveal a file labeled Patient Number 1327. She flipped it open, her breath hitching as she read aloud. Patient claims to hear voices from the walls. Reports of laughter at night. Begs to be moved. Request denied. She turned the page. Patient found unresponsive in bed. Eyes open, mouth frozen in silent scream. no signs of struggle. A chill settled over them. "We should keep moving," Daniel said. His voice was steady, but the unease in his eyes betrayed him. They moved deeper into the asylum, their footsteps echoing unnaturally. It felt like the building itself was listening. And then, a whisper, faint, almost too soft to hear. It came from behind them, then ahead, then all around. Lisa swallowed. "Tell me you heard that." Jake adjusted the camera's mic, his face pale. "It's not picking up anything, but I swear, I just heard someone laughing." Daniel turned, scanning the dark corridor. "Who's there?" His voice wavered slightly. Silence, then a soft creak, the sound of a door slowly opening. They turned as one, their flashlights landing on the doorway at the end of the hall. Inside was a patient room, identical to the dozens they had passed. This one still had its bed. The leather restraints dangled limply off the sides, cracked and worn with age, and on the wall above the bed, scratched deep into the plaster, "Get out." A gust of wind rushed past them, slamming the door shut. The whispers grew louder. Lisa grabbed Daniel's arm. "We need to leave." "Now wait, where's Jake?" They spun around. He was gone. His camera lay in the middle of the hallway, still recording. Daniel grabbed it, replaying the last few seconds of footage. The screen flickered, static distorting the image. And then just before the feed cut, a shadow moved past the lens. Something had been standing right behind them. Lisa backed up, her breath quick and shallow. He wouldn't just leave. Someone took him. A sudden bang echoed down the corridor. Daniel looked up. The basements. Lisa shook her head. The blueprints didn't show a basement. Then why is there a staircase leading down? The steps groaned under their weight as they descended. The deeper they went, the colder the air became. It smelled of damp earth and rusted metal. Their flashlights cut through the darkness, revealing something they never should have found. Rows of hospital beds, perfectly aligned. Each one had leather restraints fastened tightly across the mattress. The beds weren't empty. Mummified remains lay strapped in place, their hollow eye sockets staring at the ceiling. Some had their jaws frozen open, as if caught mid-scream. Lisa's hand flew to her mouth. They never left. They were left here. Daniel stepped forward, scanning the beds. Then he noticed something worse. At the far end of the room, one bed was empty, and the straps were undone. A rustling sound came from the shadows. Then, the whispering started again, closer this time. They weren't alone down here. Lisa grabbed Daniel's sleeve. "We have to go." Now, Daniel turned to the staircase, but it was gone. The entrance had vanished, replaced by a solid concrete wall. Lisa pounded on it, her breath coming in sharp gasps. No, this wasn't here. Daniel spun in circles, his flashlight beam shaking. "Stay close, we'll find another way out." Then the lights flickered. The whispers turned into laughter, and from the darkness, footsteps approached. The footsteps in the darkness were slow, deliberate. Daniel tightened his grip on the flashlight, his pulse hammering against his ribs. Lisa pressed herself against the cold concrete wall, her breath shallow. The laughter had stopped, but the silence was worse. Then, a whisper so close it could have been breathed into her ear. "You shouldn't be here." A rusted gurney toppled over behind them with a metallic crash. Their flashlights flickered violently, the beams casting warped shadows against the decayed walls. And then Jake's voice, faint, distant, but unmistakable. "Help, ... me." Lisa's eyes widened. "That's him. We have to find him." Daniel hesitated. "What if it's not?" Another whisper, curling through the air like smoke. "Run." The corridor stretched longer than it should have. The walls felt closer, suffocating. Every few feet, rusted doors lined the hallway, some barely hanging on their hinges. Their nameplates were faded, but one caught Lisa's eye. Dr. Grayson Caldwell. Head psychiatrist. Daniel hesitated. The doctor who ran this place. The one who just ... disappeared. Lisa swallowed hard. Only one way to find out. The door groaned as they pushed it open. Dust swirled in the flashlight beams, revealing an office frozen in time. Papers covered the desk, some yellowed with age, others looking freshly disturbed. A large cabinet stood against the far wall, its glass shattered. Inside, rusted surgical tools sat arranged in neat rows. Lisa reached for a thick, leather-bound journal on the desk, its spine cracked and brittle. She turned the first page, her hands trembling. They were never sick, she read aloud. They were chosen. The journal was filled with notes detailed, obsessive, horrifying. Dr. Caldwell hadn't been treating patients. He had been using them. Lisa flipped through the pages, her breath catching at a passage scrawled in frenzied handwriting. Their bodies are vessels, their minds are the price. The halls are watching. I have failed. It is awake. A deep, guttural sound rumbled through the office, shaking the floorboards. Daniel grabbed Lisa's arm. We need to go now. As they turned to leave, something moved in the corner of the room. A chair empty, a moment ago, was now occupied. A man sat hunched over, hands clasped together, head tilted at an unnatural angle. Dr. Caldwell. His skin was ashen, his eyes sunken into deep sockets. His lips moved, but no words came out. Only a faint, rattling breath. Lisa took a step back, but the figure's head snapped up with a sickening crack. And then, in a voice not his own, he spoke. You don't belong here. The lights flickered, and the office collapsed into darkness. Daniel and Lisa stumbled into the hallway, the walls now pulsing like a living thing. The asylum was shifting, morphing around them. Jake's voice echoed again. Closer, more desperate. Please, ... don't leave me. A door slammed open at the end of the corridor. A room bathed in flickering red light. They ran toward it. Inside, they found an old operating room. Blood-stained sheets covered the gurney in the center. Shackles dangled from the walls. And in the far corner, Jake. Lisa rushed toward him, but Daniel yanked her back. Something was wrong. Jake stood unnaturally still, his back to them, shoulders rigid. Jake, Lisa whispered. We're here. We're getting out. Silence. Then, slowly, he turned. His eyes were hollow pits, his mouth stretched into an unnatural grin, and in a voice layered with many voices, he spoke. You can't leave. The walls convulsed. The laughter returned deafening, all around them. Lisa screamed as many hands burst from the walls, grasping, clawing. Daniel grabbed her wrist, yanking her toward the exit. Run. They barreled through the door, down the corridor, past the empty patient rooms. The building roared around them, the structure itself protesting their escape. At the end of the hall, an iron door stood ajar, a way out. But as they reached it, Lisa skidded to a halt. A single, rusted sign hung above the door. Exit requires sacrifice. The air turned frigid. Behind them, Jakor, whatever he had become, was coming. Lisa turned to Daniel, her face pale. One of us has to stay. The lights flickered, and then total darkness. Darkness swallowed them whole. Lisa's breath came in sharp gasps, her fingers tightening around Daniel's wrist. The silence was suffocating, pressing in from all sides. Somewhere in the distance, the sound of dragging footsteps echoed through the asylum's shifting halls. A whisper curled through the air. Lisa's eyes darted to the rusted sign above the exit. The words burned into her mind. Exit requires sacrifice. Daniel shook his head. We're not leaving anyone behind. But the asylum had other plans. The corridor warped and twisted, the walls stretching impossibly tall. The door to freedom flickered in and out of existence, like a mirage. And behind them, Jake, or what was left of him, his body contorted unnaturally, his grin stretching too wide. The voices inside him spoke as one. Stay. Daniel yanked Lisa forward. They sprinted down the corridor, their feet pounding against the rotting floorboards. The exit was just ahead, so close they could taste the damp night air seeping through. Then a hand shot out from the darkness, grabbing Lisa's ankle. Cold, brittle, not human. She crashed to the ground, screaming. Daniel lunged for her, but dozens of skeletal hands erupted from the floor, dragging her toward the shadows. Lisa, she clawed at the ground, her nails splitting as she tried to hold on. The whispers turned to laughter, high-pitched, maddening. The asylum was devouring her. Daniel would not let that happen. With a guttural yell, he grabbed a rusted pipe from the debris and swung with all his strength. The metal crashed against the skeletal hands, shattering them into dust. Lisa scrambled to her feet, her face pale with terror. The laughter stopped. For the first time since they entered, the asylum hesitated. The door was right there. Freedom. But something was wrong. The air thickened, pressing against their chests like a crushing weight. The walls trembled, groaning as if the asylum itself was angry. The whisper returned right against their ears. No one leaves. Jake's possessed form lunged. Daniel shoved Lisa forward. She stumbled through the doorway just as the air collapsed inward. Daniel turned just in time to see the walls folding, swallowing Jake whole. And then, silence. The asylum stopped moving. The whispers faded. The exit stood wide open, beckoning. Daniel staggered forward, his legs barely holding him up. He didn't dare look back. They emerged into the cold night air, gasping. The asylum loomed behind them, its windows now dark, lifeless. Lisa trembled. We made it. Daniel wasn't so sure. Days later, he sat in his editing room, reviewing the footage. At first, it was just shadows, flickering lights, faint whispers, the things they had witnessed. Then, his breath caught. In every frame a figure stood behind them, watching. And at the very end, just as the screen faded to black, a whisper creeping through the speakers. We never let anyone leave. Some places are never truly abandoned. Some stories refuse to be forgotten. Lisa and Daniel may have escaped, but the asylum's mark is still on them. If you enjoyed this chilling tale, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more real-life horror stories. And remember, some doors should never be opened.